and of course, due to the maturing of the Eurobond repayment as well. We'll be looking at also what is happening in the sugar sector now that we have the government that has given 5 sugar farms to be put into the market for privatization. And we shall be looking why the government has made this decision. Also, we shall be following what is happening regarding the bond issue. There is a CBK August bond issuance. We'll tell you more about that also here on Sokoni. But let's see what is fresh off the press this morning. We begin with the bold paper. This is what is on the front page of the Standard this morning. It's all about Oparanya. In a fix over 1.3 billion shillings graft probe, it says, raided and grilled. Former Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya yesterday spent hours at the anti-corruption offices for alleged embezzlement of 1.3 billion shillings in the county, even as commission agents raided his rural and Nairobi homes, triggering protest from Azimio. This story continues on page 2 of the Standard this morning. We have him saying, quote unquote, if this, that is EACC action, happens to me and yet I am one of the Azimio principals, then obviously it will affect the Kenya Kwanza Azimio National Dialogue talks. 1.3 billion shillings, that is the value of tenders under investigations of alleged procurement irregularities and conflict of interest during award by the county government of Kakamega between 2013 and 2022. Also, on the sidebar, I will not quit vows, embattled CS Mbabu, confronted by MPs with allegations of neglecting athletes' welfare. Embattled Sports and Youth Affairs Cabinet Secretary Babu Namwamba says there is no sufficient evidence to warrant his resignation. You have the story on page 2 of the Standard this morning. On the side as well, unmasking untouchable Jeb Chirchir. In 2010, Judith Jeb Chirchir, the director of a controversial recruitment agency in Eldoret linking youth to jobs in Qatar, was dealing in imported new clothes. Those who know the 37-year-old describe her as a crafty businesswoman who rose from poverty before briefly moving to Australia and Canada. This story is tucked away on page 3 of the Standard today. Real estate comes your way as well every Thursday, where you get all the wires as far as real estate is concerned, why you are paying high prices for steel products right now. And of course, all the details is tucked away inside the Pullard magazine in the Standard. Ruto Raila teams agree on agenda items for talks. Also good news as police officers get pay rise. And Kipyegon, I was chasing history and I delivered. That story continues on page 54 and 56 of the Standard this morning. Let's see what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. And this is what you're waking up to on the front page of the Daily Nation today. The war within. This is all about power struggle, signs of a looming cabinet reshuffle, or a storm in a teacup. That is a probing question as a flagger there on front page of the Daily Nation. Babu Namwamba, the athletes fly economy, the ministry officials fly business and first class. That is what Gladys Bostrelay said. Also, we must make it clear as a house that we will not allow any CS to take us for a ride. This is what Kimani Ichung'wah said. If people want joy riders, let them have them outside Parliament and the executive. That is what Boni Halole said. Appearing in Parliament is not just a privilege or something to joke about. That is what Aaron Cheriot said regarding also the CSs. After President Ruto recently read the Riot Act to his appointees, questioning their competence, Kenya Kwanza lawmakers have stepped up attacks on cabinet secretaries who find themselves increasingly on defensive amid questions about their future. That story continues on page 4 of the Daily Nation this morning. Also still on the front page, Jeb Chirchir, I'm a victim too, she says. Jeb Chirchir, who runs a recruitment agency and investigation for allegedly conning job seekers millions of shillings, fights back, insisting her firm secured overseas employment for applicants. She blames jealousy or jealous competitors and politicians for her woes. This story continues on page 8 of the Daily Nation this morning. Also, still on the front page of the Daily Nation, TikTok row, Ruto to talk with tech firms boss over explicit content. And also junior police officers get 1,000 shillings pay rise as bosses pocket 11,000 shillings monthly. This is on the back page of the Daily Nation that is being effected today. Oparanya grilled for 6 hours over graft. Anti-corruption detectives question ex-Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya over alleged 1.3 billion shillings loss, and steelmakers fined 340 million shillings for unfair price fixing. You can follow the story inside the Daily Nation this morning. Also, we have the Star for you, which is up next, and this is what you're waking up to on the front page of Star. Why Uhuru's 63 billion shillings last mile project failed. According to audit there, KPLC installed cables and meters on empty land where owners were yet to build. Poor households unable to buy tokens opted not to use power, putting infrastructure to waste. And that is a story that you will follow on page 4 and 5 of the Star this morning. Talent galore as music festival finalists put on show, and they made us proud. These young creatives here, we can see Karatina DEB pupils performing during the 95th Kenya National Music Festival's finalist concert at State House, Nakuru yesterday. The story is inside the Star this morning. 1,255 to 9,439 more shillings there. What police officers will get a new salary review. Also, there is a new headache here. Why more children could be having vaccine derived polio. You can follow the story on page 2 of the Star this morning. And Oparanya probe. ESCC strikes at heart of Raila's Orange Party. That story continues on page 6 of the Star. That is a story that you have there on the front page of the Star. People Daily is up next, and this is what you're waking up to on the front page of the People Daily. Ababu must resign. Angry MPs demand. Trouble at Sports Ministry. Legislators allied to President William Ruto crucify embattled CS, accusing him of failing to ensure welfare of athletes. That story continues on page 4 of the People Daily. Sports CS Ababu Namwamba. I believe there is absolutely no sufficient ground that will cause my resignation. I am performing exemplary well as the CS responsible for this ministry, and we'll run you by that story momentarily after the paper review. Also on the side, but they are Oparanya quizzed in 1.8 billion shillings graft probe. That is what we have on the front page of the People Daily. There on the spot, former governor picked up of the money allegedly lost during his tenure. That is on page 5 of the People Daily this morning. Also, higher park charges will hurt tourism. Find all the details on page 22 and 23 of the People Daily. Mercenary leader killed in plane crash is all about Wagner leader who crashed yesterday in a plane crash. According to reports, he was one of the passengers that was in the plane that crashed. Looking at the manifest, we can actually give you the details much later in the course of the day. Ruto 6 out TikTok over content. That is another story that you want to follow inside the People Daily this morning. Namwamba kwenye kinywa cha mamba. Katika kile kinachoonekana kama njama, waziri akaangwa na upande wa serikali, upinzani ukimtetea vikali. You can follow the story inside Taifa Leo this morning. That is a story that you want to follow on the front page of Taifa Leo. Also, let's see what we have on the front page of the Business Daily. Set to legalize phone email tapping in dirty cash fight. That is the story. And law currently stops tapping of private communication. MPs vote to shield lawyers, notaries from snitching on clients. And you have the details there also on penalties. Breakdown of penalties and directors, owners or CEO. That is according to competition watchdog. Shocking steel industry tycoons with record fines is another story on the front page of the Business Daily, and it's been broken down for you. Some of the people that have been shocked by these penalties as well. Darashak Patel from the corrugated steel, 86.9 million shillings. We have Dharmesh Savla, that is Tononoka Rolling Mills, 62.72 million shillings. Narendra Raval, Devki Steel Mills, 46.3 million shillings. IJ Doshi of Doshi and Hardware, 41.55 million shillings. Also, we have Indravadan Patel, Jumbo Steels Mills. We have 33.14 million shillings as penalties there. Avraj Bashu, Accurate Steels Mills. Also, we have Nel Kamal Shah, 22.82. Accurate Steels Mills owned by Avraj Bachu. The amount given there is 26.83 million shillings. Also, we have Neil Kamal Shah, Nail and Steel Products, 22.82 million shillings. Kitan Lele Chadra, that is Brolo Kenya, 9.38 or 9.36, I should say, million shillings. Courtney Rao, we have Blue Nile Wire Products, 9.16 million shillings. The total is 338.85 million shillings. Those are the penalties the competition watchdog is shocking the steel industry tycoons with. And you can follow the details inside the Business Daily this morning. Safaricom Ethiopia crosses 5 million in client numbers. Also, KCB profit falls to 15 billion shillings on higher cost. And also, we have 4 billion shillings Telcom US farm now. Around shuts down mast. That is a story that you can read inside the Business Daily. In Uganda, tax fares are rising as bus strikes enters that day. That is how they're cashing in. You can read all about it. The buses have striked there. Farmers struck with cuts after new narcotics law. Farmers stuck with cut, I should say, after new narcotics law. You can follow the story inside the Daily Monitor. NSSF, IOTA's ambitious 50 trillion shillings plan. And also Wagner boss Prigozhin feared dead. NDA warns on Viagra-laced products. And Airtel fined 700 million shillings for copyright breach. You can read all about it inside the Daily Monitor. In Uganda. In Tanzania, why only 21% of Tanzanians save to invest? Financial experts have emphasized the importance of striking a balance between saving for emergencies and investing for the future by promoting financial literacy and access to investment solutions among Tanzanians. You have the story on page 2 of The Citizen this morning. Also, in Rwanda, what is holding made in Rwanda products back? That is the abiding question. Rwanda exported $5.9 million worth of textile and garment products in 2018. The story continues on page 4 of the New Times this morning. And Kagame challenges youth to pursue development with dignity. And you can see some of the attendants there, him addressing them. Over 2,000 youth at the 10-year anniversary of the Youth Connect held at Intare Conference Arena on Wednesday. And in his remarks, Kagame tasked the youth to purposefully work hard and smart with a mindset of putting the country on a global stage of development with dignity. You have that story continuing inside the New Times this morning. Also, if you've not picked your copy of the East African, this is what is headlining the front page of the East African. Exit MONUSCO. Who is next? That's the probing question. Congo's southern neighbors are sending in a force to buttress its defenses as the UN mission leaves after 25-year checkered history. The UN warns that the security situation in the troubled East could worsen unless another mission steps in. Who will it be? EAC or SADC? That's the question. The story on page 4 and 5 of East African this week. Is Samir using Magufuli tactics to stem dissent? Right groups say a dozen people have been arrested for opposing Dubai port deal. What is with the Dubai port deal? Right, you can follow the story on page 10 of the East African. Zimbabwe polls, new vote, all problems. That went down yesterday. A bit has been extended today. Following the latest news, you can follow the story inside the East African as well. And I'll be showing you much more of what we have in the editorial cartoons as well. But for now, let me just hear from our panelists who are already here up and early. Diretu Mureithi is joining us this morning. He's an economist, former immediate governor of Laikipia County. Also, we're joined by Professor Gituro Wanaina from the University of Nairobi as well. We're joined by Bunyasi Sakwa, who is the chair of the KDC, Kenya Development Corporation, and also businessman Bill Okero, much later in the course of the program. Let's just begin by hearing from Diretu Mureithi, first of all. It's good to see you. We missed you last week.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
And to all viewers in the Republic and around the globe. So, I'm happy to be here this morning. and to look at the topical issues of the day.
Topical issues of the day. One of it is a cabinet issue that people have been gagging for, that especially for the Azimio talks, that the high cost of living should be part of the agenda. Now that has shaken into place.
Yes, indeed. And, we obviously have been trying to persuade our colleagues in government that the cost of living is the real issue hurting Kenyans, and that in fact cost of living has troubled many countries around the globe, and there is no reason for the state to react with brutality when citizens stand up to say that this is an issue and we need real solutions to this issue. Obviously, speaking of the talks, comments associated with the top leadership of Kenya Kwanza are not very helpful, because the deputy president, the president himself, both on record dismissing these talks as useless and of no purpose, begging the question whether in fact there is any goodwill, and whether as Azimio we should, if it's a waste of time, why should we be there? Yeah, perhaps we should spend our time differently.
So they're not really keen on these talks?
Well, look, as I said, if you go by the public statements,
absolutely,
just as recent as 2 days ago, from the deputy president, and I think a few days before that from the president himself, both are dismissing these talks as useless. And to my mind, the Azimio team should immediately withdraw.
All right, we shall hear about it, what we had to say as well. Let's just hear from Gituro Naina.
Yeah, thanks, Deba, and see you. Yes, indeed, it doesn't make a lot of way in terms of going forward. If there's a team here, then you are commenting. You wonder then why did we have the team? But mine is first on very interesting on page 3 of the People Daily. No, People Daily. The Prezo going down in a dance in Nakuru. It's interesting how he gels into the Mwananchi, and that's interesting. But also I noticed very interesting in terms of the steel industry. and you
I know where you're headed.
You know where I'm headed. And
I have an idea of where you're headed.
And if you step back and look at the kind of industry requiring steel, and I can't see Morezi's name here and all that, but it's a very interesting discussion in terms of who has really got into this industry. But as it is, I think it's also important.
So what's exactly your point?
I'll leave it to you to interpret.
the steel industry, Professor, I mean, we were not successful in getting the iron ore in Laikipia,
right,
and production into steel products. And certainly it remains one of my hopes for Kenya that will go into sort of heavy steel industry, not just smelting scrap metal, but putting out the iron ore and processing it into steel, and in particular industrial and high-speed steel. Because you see, these iron bars that we use for building, you can't use that kind of steel to make moving parts, like say in a gearbox and so on. And until we get to that point, we can never ever really industrialize.
I'll be among the first shareholders if you start one.
Absolutely.
It's an opportunity really to get into.
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me suspicious?
No, I'm just listening to you, King.
Yeah.
Allow me to introduce also.
It was an interesting week. Yesterday, the gentleman in Russia had this plane accident, so sad.
Gentleman in Russia?
Yeah. Wagner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a gentleman?
He's a gentleman, yes.
He's a man, though.
Yeah, maybe he's partially right, but I agree with Jesse.
I don't know what's up there with Shimiwas against me today.
No, not at all. We are just surprised. We just
they can't just
surprised.
put the word gentleman with
like say for example mercenary.
Yes.
It doesn't quite
It
gel.
won't really gel.
I thought you were going to go into sports. You know, the Kenya is banned.
Yes, we'll come to that. We'll come to that. We'll come to that. We'll run the story. But let's hear from also Bunyasi Sako as well.
Oh,
good morning. Good to see you.
You
No, officially. You're just chiming in as well. But yes, good to have you last week at the Devolution Conference. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's a big thing, and yeah, it was interesting to listen to it. Yeah. My highlight there was the speech by the American ambassador, and the second highlight the following day was the speech by Honorable Raila. He came, but other things were just normal.
No, normal.
Yeah.
Okay. We shall be looking at that as well, and also update from KDC. I can see some.
She brought good points, but it's sort of the second day people rubbishing it than anything else.
I think the comments around the election is what might have rubbed people the wrong way, but her presentation as if she was the salesperson for a country or for anybody, she put the data together in a way that it was a powerful PowerPoint presentation. And of course, she's somebody who is completely schooled and used to it, having been a CEO of HP.
Right.
Yeah, so she didn't have difficulty in the presentation of it. But I think in the content of it, the areas that were controversial were introductory remarks around the status of
the elections.
You said something yesterday, the Africans don't know how to count, particularly when it comes to elections.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. We have a big problem with that.
But we know how to count our marbles.
Yes,
but
when it comes to election, we don't know how to count.
We know how to count our marbles in Gambia.
And
No,
two things you don't know how to count.
with the marbles.
One is elections, the other is population.
A former American president is on trial right now for what, in any version of English, would be a coup. Is it not?
Yes.
So let's not pretend that an American can come and tell us what is good or not good for us, or whether our elections work or not. Why is Trump on trial? Is it not for trying to overturn the outcome of an election?
That has to be fair.
That
has to be fair. She was not comparing Kenya and America. No, she wasn't.
Hear me. So the numbers about Kenya and what Kenya is today are not in dispute. I think on this very panel, we have observed, for example, that just these 10 counties here in Mount Kenya region, that economy is bigger than Mauritius, it's bigger than Rwanda, it's bigger than Botswana, it's bigger than nearly 38 different African countries. What we should be talking about is opportunity cost. We know that this country could be so much better.
That's a very interesting point, but why are they poorer than those who have mentioned, particularly Rwanda? They're bigger, but they're poorer.
No, they're not. Well, income distribution for one. Yeah, income distribution for one. But you know, poorer might not really be the descriptor.
All right.
The economy
but let's be careful.
Is twice.
Let's be careful there.
Twice the size.
Governor,
Yeah.
we have to be careful there. There are multiple narratives. And having had one narrative doesn't negate other narratives. People can come with different narratives. I think just to say that her narrative, the way it was presented, was compelling. But it's not the only narrative. There could be other narratives. That is the...
Absolutely.
All right. I wanted just to maybe highlight some of the things that we have here on the dailies, especially what we have on the Star. And as we're considering that, the Star says that why Uhuru's 63 billion shillings last mile project failed, KPLC installed cables and meters on empty lands where owners were yet to build. Poor households unable to buy tokens opted not to use power, putting infrastructure to waste. And we saw people questioning during that time, how come we have mud houses
I don't have this
where we are actually installing this particular the last miles. You don't have a star. I have only one copy,
Okay,
hard
that's
copy,
right.
so they can actually just use
Okay.
what is on the screen there. But let me just come to you, Bill Okero. Good to see you. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. We missed you last week.
My neighbor is
Right?
I was out of town.
You're out of town. Yeah, karibu sana.
He was in the
Yes.
conference of devolution.
I thought, maybe
No.
he was giving.
I didn't see him there.
No, I didn't.
I saw you on the telly.
I took a holiday. I was not there. Which devolution?
Yeah, of course, from the Senate, you're still the custodian from the periphery. Yeah, watching what is happening. You see, they will normally say, and I always quote this. Yeah, it is for you to see clearly and very well. You need to step out from the picture.
Step out,
Yeah. So at least you've stepped out from the picture, you can see clearly. But good to see you. Good morning. Yes, maybe we can just get introductory remarks from you as well. And if you may remember the Last Mile project, it was really touted as very successful when we had interviews with the executives, both Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto. Now we understand this project failed dismally, and KPLC cables, according to the Star, and meters were installed where landowners had not even built any buildings that have not been put there.
Yes. Good morning again.
Good morning.
Prof, it's good to see you. You've been away
Same.
yourself for quite a
For
while.
a long time.
I've been masquerading to be bombers. As I listen.
Nothing surprises us in this country anymore. The government is always talking positively about every activity that it does, every project that it does, and every.
Right.
But the reality is, in a country where integrity is in short supply, these things are not surprising. That at the end of the day, when the audit is done, is when you find. In fact, when you read the Auditor General's report every year, you become numb in this country about corruption and the things that happen. It's just crazy. So the last mile was like every other activity in our country, or most of the activities, is driven by the need to give out contracts to to people. I think that is where the money is. People are looking for those contracts. I think that was a big business that time. Every type of activity was contracted out to people, and people made a lot of money on that thing. So whether or not it, however, achieved its objective, whether the people got electricity, that you can know from when you go to your villages. Still, there are many villages, actually some almost location headquarters of locations, with the DOs and others, without electricity up to now. So when you say the last mile was successful, there are many parts of this country where electricity is still, marriage. So I'm not surprised that the auditor is saying that in reality what happened is there was this activity, because there was a rush to make the money. So donor funded things, and people wanted to make money, and so getting these things. And KPC, by the way, I mean, this thing we have repeatedly said is a criminal enterprise. KPC has become, it's obvious. Okay? There's nothing KPC you can trust anymore, from the billing to their contracts, to the supply of their own, equipments and things. So if it's KPC, I won't be surprised.
Well, I think there's a famous case, isn't there, of some Kenyans who were to be extradited to.
It's an old story,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That in KPC or KPLC is at the heart of that story. So I am just agreeing with you about the long history of
KPC
criminality.
has been a cash cow for every government in this country for the last 50 years. This is where, if you are in power, that is the first port of call.
For looking for money.
I remember the days of, I don't want to name names, but some fellows during the time of Moyo who were given LPOs, open, you remember, open LPOs to go and shop for transformers and things outside the country. They would write whatever they want. And so KPC has always been, but I think in the last 10 years it's been worse, I must say.
It's the same story with
worse.
the laptops, isn't it? The laptops 2013.
The tablets.
The templates, sorry, the issue with the dams. And it's a very interesting discussion about, rather comment by one of the ladies is, it's not just talk. And I think what we need is some action. If my brother here has been Kenya Power, he has been dumped, I've been Temple, and we know who these are. Surely, why don't we take action? Anybody can say on the street, but action, we need to do that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to bring the attention of Nyasi Sako as well. You can highlight and tell us, can see KDC is landing up fresh loans on machinery imports for tourism industry. This is on the Business Daily as well. Kenya Development Corporation has partnered with the tourism sector to offer financing, business support and advisory services. Says players in the sector will get loans from 7.2 million shillings, that is $50,000 machinery from India and investment opportunities, including job creation.
Yeah, that's a program that's ongoing from the Indian Afrexim. It's been around, I think, the last 4 years, maybe maybe 4 years. Yes, yeah. That's a program tied to Indian machinery. So learn of credit from India.
Fantastic. All right, now Cabinet Secretary for Youth Affairs and Sports, Ababu Namwamba, was reprimanded by members of the National Assembly and forced to apologize after writing a protest letter to Parliament against the summons he received to appear before the House. According to the legislator, the protest letter, which was also copied to both speakers, was an abuse to the independence of the House. The protest letter claimed that Parliament was relying on hearsay. Christine, start.
Youth Affairs and Sports CS Ababu Namwamba's troubles continued to haunt him when he appeared before the National Assembly to respond to accusations of mismanagement of the sports docket. And even before he could respond to the issues, the MPs took time to read to him the Riots Act in regards to a protest letter he wrote to both houses after receiving the summons to appear.
That he is okay to appear before the committees, relevant committees, but he has a problem with being oversighted by plenary. Neither the leader of majority nor any member of parliament is here serving at the whim of any cabinet secretary. We are here as a people's representatives to oversight.
This house can choose to transact its business in the manner it deems fit. It is not for anybody else to direct it how to go about transacting its business, including the business of inviting people. We did not give them the privilege to walk into this house. They must know they are strangers. Right now, they are strangers. And at best, they can only be witnesses, whom we summon from time to time in our own wisdom.
In the letter copied to both speakers, the CS claimed that the accusations against him were mere hearsay and that Parliament should not rely on them.
I found this letter rather condescending to the institution of Parliament. And when a minister says that we are raising issues on hearsay,
about hearsays, and say that what we are doing here, we are purporting. We are purporting to do the things that we are doing here. We are purporting. And to allow this witness to write to the speaker, where is even the protocol of writing to the speakers of the houses?
Speaker Moses Wetangula did not mince his words either, forcing the CS to first apologize before responding to the issues raised.
Once the chair has given direction on the matter, no minister has any right to give value judgment on that direction. Minister, you will be required to rescind in totality the contents of that letter, tender an apology to the House.
May I therefore, with a lot of respect, withdraw that correspondence and unreservedly tender an apology to the Honorable House.
It also emerged that the Kenyan athletes in Budapest, Hungary for the World Athletics Championships were not well catered for, and joyriders were many.
I want the minister to share the list of the Kenyan delegation who are purported to be the cheering squad.
I am not aware of any joyriders being part of any official delegation, accompanying any Kenyan team to any event.
Will this House be in order to demand that the CS Honorable Ababu resigns because he has painted this country in a very negative manner?
There is absolutely no sufficient ground that would cause my resignation, because I believe I am performing exemplary well.
Ababu is one of the cabinet secretaries who has been under the MP spotlight. If the sentiments by members from across the political divide are anything to go by, then the events in the House send a warning shot to all the underperforming CSAs that their days are numbered. Chris Dairo, KTN News, Nairobi.
And former Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya was questioned at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission over alleged financial mismanagement during his tenure between 2013 and 2022, where the corruption watchdog insists they interrogated him over mismanagement of 1.3 billion shillings. His Azimio counterparts claim it is a political move aimed at silencing Oparanya ahead of President William Ruto's forthcoming visit to Western Kenya. The former governor, who was grilled for more than 4 hours, claimed that he was interrogated about owning guns and his relationships with Azimio leader Raila Odinga. Willie Lusugi has more.
On Wednesday morning, officers from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, raided the homes of former Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya in Karen, Nairobi, and Emavole Village, Butere, in Kakamega County.
They said that they had a warrant to search my house.
Oparanya and his wife were later taken to the EACC headquarters. After more than 4 hours and pressure piling on EACC for locking out Azimio leaders, Oparanya walked out of the grilling session.
Hiyo tabia sio tabia ya watu ambao wanafuata sheria. Hiyo tabia ni tabia ya magaidi.
The people of Kakamega County respect Oparanya very much, so they are disturbed.
It is not proper for this government to start weaponizing corruption. We are members of parliament elected by the people from Western Kenya. We have a right to see our fellow leader from the region.
EACC officers say they interrogated the former governor and his 2 wives over alleged economic crimes committed during Oparanya's term as Kakamega County boss between 2013 and 2022.
We agreed that they will avail the issues to me so that I can come later.
Insiders at EACC told KTN News that the commission is investigating how the county spent about 1.3 billion Kenyan shillings between 2013 and 2022 when he was in office.
This is political, and you can see that I have been in the county for 10 years. No EACC came to my office.
Oparanya insists he was questioned over alleged possession of guns and his relationship with Azimio leader Raila Odinga.
They asked me a few questions if I had guns in the house. What business do I do with Baba?
The opposition leaders now warn that after Oparanya's arrest, they have little faith on the current ongoing joint dialogue committee talks at Bomas.
So we read mischief. We know that this is castigated by those who want the president to come and to get acrimony in Kakamega.
A person who wants to deny Kakamega leaders an opportunity to discuss with the president wants to do this to spoil the environment, so that, as usual, Kakamega is disenfranchised of development.
Because the people of Western Kenya are asking tough questions about this government. They try to even arrest Honorable Osotsi, and then they claim that you want to disrupt a presidential function. It is not Oparanya to disrupt a presidential function. You made promises to Kenyans. You made promises about Nzoia Sugar, about Mumias Sugar.
Bishop Oginde, this cannot happen under your watch. The scandal for Kenya National Trading Corporation, it's in parliament. Those people are free. No one is bringing them to EACC. Why Oparanya?
How do you dialogue when people are being harassed behind your backs? Where is the good faith? What would motivate me to go to the table tomorrow? I don't think they have any reason to tell us that they really believe in the talks.
Even though EACC insists it has questioned Oparanya in regard to 1.3 billion shillings that might have been misused during his reign, Oparanya insists, together with Azimio leaders, that this is political, especially ahead of President William Ruto's visit to Kakamega and Western Region over this weekend. Willie Lusige, KTN News, EACC headquarters in Nairobi.
All right, we want just to discuss some of these issues briefly before we delve deeper into the state of the economy. And interesting editorial cartoons as well. We had yesterday of Babu na Mwamba, Talanta Hewa. This is what is all about, the Talanta app that people have been eagerly waiting for. And as we mentioned earlier, it's not even appearing on the Apple Store or the Google Play Store as well. And his war also, we saw him in the Senate, in the National Assembly, I should say. He's working on the sharpest edge of a dilemma of his future as a cabinet secretary. Most of the MPs demanding that now he should resign. We still wait to see if he'll be appearing before the Senate as well. That's the Caesars there. Niko chini ya Mwamba, Mwamba juu yangu. If you may remember that song. I think Professor Gituro Wanaina was by then in the choir. He used to be a choir massive.
But I also remember him swearing in the name of Raila. 2013.
But let's just look at exactly what is, because I'm trying to figure out what has Babu na Mwamba done that has really raised, you know, the scruples of members of parliament and the sport fraternity, as it were. Is it just because of issues that, you know, they don't have proper uniform? What really constitutes a gross or misconduct from the CS? Director, let's begin from it.
Well, as I understand it, what parliamentarians and the Speaker were taking issue with is the Minister's communication to Parliament. You see, Parliament asked certain questions and he retorted, you know, you are using hearsay. You know, why you are questioning me on the basis of hearsay? Why should you question me? And I think that's partly what is driving the anger of Parliament. Because remember, the Parliament has power to inquire into any matter that may come, you know, in their purview. But I would say that there are deeper issues in the management of sports. I just give you one example. The Swimming Federation is suspended from global competition because of wrangles in it and a failure to organize, I think, elections and have proper conduct over federation. So young people who, you know, frankly, fairly competitive at Olympic level, then are competing, not wearing Kenyan colors because the Kenyan Federation is suspended. So they are competing as, you know, athletes from a suspended federation. So there is, and that's just one sport. And my sense is that a variety of other sports facing similar questions. Obviously, the questions of treatment of the sportsmen and women, and whether officials, you know, if you will, as was being said there, officials travel and live large, while the athletes, who are the ones this thing is about, are living in a sense in squalor. And these issues, although one could say that some of those issues are not new, the question is, what then is the minister doing to resolve it? So that's my sense of the whole thing. Although, of course, you must also look at it in the broader context of performance of this government in a variety of areas. How I wish Parliament could dig into the management of this economy and what, for example, the Treasury bosses are doing or not doing, into issues of trade and manufacturing and what is going on there. But my sense is that those are the particular issues facing the Ministry of Sports, and that, you know, if Parliament finds its feet in oversighting, that's what is to be expected.
So we've been
so
here.
hongera to them.
Hongera to them.
Oh my God.
But we've been here before.
Right.
We had CS Wario. The same issues are being raised. It was actually put on the table as well. We never learn as a country. So is it, he says, according to him, the KPIs, he's met them. So he should not be actually castigated the way he's being castigated because he's performed. This is what he's defending himself.
Let's hear from Bello.
I don't share the sentiments expressed by Inderitu. I think this gentleman issue is politics. It's not about, and it's becoming common now. 3-4 CS is being grilled in the same way, and I don't think it's about the performance of the CSs. I think
there's more to it.
It's politics within the Kenya Kwanza government, if you will. They have their own way of dealing with their issues. Otherwise, this gentleman is appointed by the president. He is accountable to the president. If he has not performed, the president deals with him. But for members of parliament to raise issues without any substantiation, nothing you've seen in that debate was presented before the House. On his part, he explained each one of them, the amount of money he gave to the people who went to Germany, how each one of them has been, rewarded, how much they have been given, who went on that flight, this joyrider story. He gave them, example of the number of people who went, who didn't. So, I mean, when you simply throw in things, and the way they were acting, I mean, there are more serious issues with this government. There are ministers who have collapsed this government in terms of their performance. Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Agriculture, people dealing with finance, cost of living issues, really to focus their energy on some guy who's looking after musicians and athletes. I mean, they're jokers. I mean, they're just trying to pretend that they're performing. I think the MPs are not performing any duty. They have failed in their, oversight. What is happening here by KK legislators is simply playing out some political agenda of the government. These are people who probably they want to remove, or they want to reshuffle, or do something. And so I don't think. I don't think
them in a certain light.
Yes, they need to put forward into the public to prepare for the reshuffle.
Members of parliament, any opportunity to grill a government CS is welcome, because you're bringing down the government one way or the other. For a position that is perfect, it's an opportunity that they can't throw.
I tend to agree with you, with him, and he's right that let's put it here. This has played out before. So in terms of going first class or whatever, going to Rio, that's not here nor there. And I have a very strong view of the guy. I'm not quite sure I like him very much. Maybe I don't have to.
You don't have to like him.
I don't have to like him anyway. And we all know about his history. That perhaps has something to do. There was something Bon Kawale was saying that the president either tomorrow or today is going to Western. There's a lot of development he's going to look at, and Mweshmez probably will expand it. And saying some of the